Hey Ginger, how's today going for you?
Hey Annie, everything's been really good actually.
Yeah, can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah, I'm just I feel like things have, nothing's really significantly changed in my life,
Sure.
whereas the situations with my husband and my son, but I just feel like my outlook's been a lot better. I've been really making the conscious commitment, especially with the homework you've given me and stuff,
Right.
to look at things from a more positive point of view. And I felt like it's really helped. There are some times where I still find myself down, but then I turn back to
Right.
those exercises of looking at my thoughts, and it just seems to be it seems to turn things around a lot quicker than trying to figure it all out.
Very
If that makes
good.
sense.
Yeah, that makes total sense. So you've been able to incorporate some of this thought-stopping practices that we talked about.
Yeah.
That's great. And we also talked about last week for your homework, you coming back and maybe sharing with me some strengths that you feel like you have as a mother, apart from how your son acts.
Yeah.
Mostly focused on you and what you think are good qualities that you have as a mother.
Yeah, I found that homework actually pretty interesting. I ended up I had dinner with friends and we talked about it.
Good.
Because she's also a mom, and it was I did come with some strengths. I feel like I'm very, before all of this, especially it showed through a lot more because I had more opportunity. But I am very supportive, and when he wants my support, I will always be there for him.
Yeah.
And I do have faith in him, and know that he'll do great things, so I am rooting for him. And I feel I do a pretty good job of trying to demonstrate what appropriate behaviors are and aren't in my life. And
How do you demonstrate those for him? I'm sorry to interrupt you.
No, you're okay. Just by the way that I live my life, I'm not I'm not I don't do inappropriate things. I don't party a lot or use drugs or alcohol too much or anything like that. And I hold a steady job, and I do genuinely love my job. So I feel just by the life I live, I've kind of I'm just I try to be a good role model for him, and I think that I am in a lot of ways happy with how my life is for my son. So I do feel even though we are in a spot where our relationship isn't what I want it to be, I was able to see a lot of strengths that I've built as a mother.
Right, and that perhaps the place your relationship is maybe isn't a place that you have put it solely. There's more factors than just your skills as a mother. Is that something that you can agree with?
Yeah, I think definitely. I think I learned that I kind of co-created the situation in my head that I wasn't a good mother, just because that's how I felt, and that's kind of how I allowed myself to be treated.
Right.
But then being able to re-examine it has helped with those thoughts a lot.
Yeah, well, that's amazing, Ginger. I'm so glad to hear that the homework went well for you. And I don't know if this was intentional, but I was just thinking, if we think back to my first session with you and how you felt isolated, you felt not good enough, these things were coming through in the way that you were speaking to me and the things you were saying. And even this week, you reached out, you had dinner with a friend, someone that you could connect with and someone that you could mentally process with, which isn't something which I think that you could say and I can say, as we've been through this whole process, that was something that was hard for you in the beginning. Can you tell me what was different about this week and why you were able to move in that direction?
Yeah, I just feel I am starting to get a little bit of my energy back from releasing some of these old blocks of feeling I'm not good enough. I still think in some ways it's definitely still there in the back of my head, especially in the dating scene and things like that. But I have found it really helpful to be able to to at least know that I can stop and look at situations, whereas before I wasn't really doing that. I was just accepting things as how they made me feel, and now I know that was just one perspective and it's only making me feel worse. So I felt being able to do that kind of like gave me a little more confidence back, and I was able to like, you know, enjoy things that I wasn't able to before.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that these are the steps that like you will begin to take and will begin to grow more confident in. But what I want to just like take a step back and like look at the situation is that you've been able to identify your strengths, and you're saying your energy is back, which is so great. I'm so pleased to hear that. But I just like, it's important to recognize that life is full of ups and downs, and that, you know, like one day, like you can have bad days, you can have good days, and it's important to remember times like these, you know, like you saying it's helpful to meet with someone and process through these things, or it's helpful to write this down or create this thought stopping pattern, you know. And so it's important, I want to point out to you that like these are the skills that will be important when things aren't so great, you know. And just like, what do you think about that? How do you feel like the next, because inevitably challenges will come, like how do you feel like you'll be able to react in your next challenge?
I feel like, you know, like I am going through some challenges with my husband and my son, and like I am like pretty aware that like those aren't going to stop at the moment, just because like in the middle of a divorce things don't really like stop until it's finalized.
Sure. And even after things,
yeah.
There's things that happen after.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. So I think like just continuing to kind of, I feel like taking care of myself, I've learned is like such a big step in the process, like despite like what's happening or like how the situation's making me feel, like taking a moment to like taking more than a moment to like take care of myself, and like check back in with just like my thoughts and like how I'm viewing the situation.
Right.
And I felt like, you know, like I feel like I'll be able to face the challenges a lot better because I do feel more confident in myself as a person, you know. I feel more valuable now that I've taken the time to like examine where all of these like things were coming from before.
Exactly. Yeah, and I don't mean to minimize any problem that is still currently happening or any like situation. I was just, you know, I want us to be prepared in any situation. Yeah. I also was wondering, so we remember the goals that we made at the beginning of these sessions. How do you feel about them as in terms of completion? Do you feel like you're making progress, but you're not ready for it to be over? Do you feel like you're coming to a place that is a place of ending, or where do you think you are in this whole process?
I think I'm like a lot better than I expected that I could be whenever I first came in. Like I think I've definitely like emotionally, and just like the amount, like, you know, how I feel throughout the day is definitely like improved since I started coming here. So I guess like to answer your question, I mean, I don't know, like, you know, I feel like to say like, oh, I'm ready, would just be like, you know, I don't want to like put like way too much, I don't know, like way too much like, like confidence in that answer. Sure. But I do feel like pretty good, and I feel like I've been able to practice these things now, like that we've learned together, like on my own. So I feel like I could definitely do it.
Right. Well, I just asked that question because, like, eventually we would like, you know, I would like for you to be able to stand on your own. Like that's the whole reason you're here, is to be able to find the strength and the ability to move through these dilemmas of life with the appropriate tools to like push through. And I think you're doing an amazing job. I think you're doing an incredible job at learning and grasping and practicing these things. So I wanted to talk to you about the word termination is such a heavy word, because you're always welcome to come back. You're always welcome to seek help in any way you need. But I wanted to talk to you about potentially ending our therapeutic relationship in the next couple of weeks, and like what you thought about that.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that's really like understandable. I think it'll be good for me to be able to like get back on the track of like, you know, like, because I feel like I used to be like this. I used to be like happy in my job, and I used to be happy in my life and content before these problems arose. So I feel like it'll be good for me to like practice with like that, and like I feel like it's been going pretty well, and like I have like some other like people around me now that I've like been able to like, since I've like released you know, my issues of like self-esteem, like my personal issues, like I've been able to let back in my life. So
Sure.
I feel like I would be okay with it. Yeah.
All right, well, so this session is coming to an end today. So I think, firstly, I am so proud of the things that you've done. You have worked very hard, and you have reached out to people. You've begun to grow and practice these skills that we have been talking about so intently through these like past months, really. And I just want to tell you that I'm so proud of you for that. And of course, the tiny concern that I would have is that, you know, like, you would get out and become overwhelmed by a situation again. So I'm glad we were able to talk about that. And so for this next week, and the thoughts of potentially ending our time here together on a more permanent basis, I'd like for you to go home and to think about the past goals, and think about where you are now, and also think about what it will look like in the future when you are on your own or in a situation that is difficult, and like what things, practical things that we've done here that can prepare you or will have prepared you for those times in the future. Does that sound like, I know that sounds like a lot. If we can break it down into past, present, future, does that make sense?
No, yeah, I think that makes sense. Like, cool. I think we kind of started to talk about that stuff today, so I feel like I could just continue it.
Great.
Yeah.
Well, Ginger, this has been such a great session, and I'm so pleased that the things that have been a struggle in your life you're able to see your own strength through them, and that's been really great. So thanks for coming in today.
Thank you so much. I appreciate everything.
Have a great day.